Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I have a special guest for you today. We have Austin Crumley, all the way from Los Angeles. He is a passionate dance educator and advocate for holistic ballet training. With over 10 years of experience and a master's in education, he has helped countless dancers and teachers embrace the principles of ballet re-education. His mission is to transform ballet education by promoting mindful movement, anatomical awareness, and human-centered learning in ballet classrooms worldwide. He really is, in my opinion, the epitome of what the Balanced Ballerinas community is all about. So I am so excited to kick off the new year with him here. Welcome, Austin. Can you let the listeners know a little bit about your ballet journey and where it began?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, I'm grateful to be here, by the way. I really love doing things like this and getting to meet new people and like new listeners and all that stuff. It's a blessing and it's just such a joy to be able to do what I do and a privilege too. So, um, what basically my journey, I'll try and do like a small little like tidbit just so that we can get to the nice juicy stuff. But
Absolutely.
my my journey is basically I started ballet at 15, and it was moreover kind of like as an opportunity to help a family friend of ours who owned a studio. And when I first started, it was moreover as being a partisan kind of like person for the Nutcracker. And I realized I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. I really enjoy what these people are doing. But I was kind of caught up in that like, 15-year-old, 14-year-old boy kind of mindset of like, "Nah, I can't do ballet. That's sissy. Like, I don't want to do it." Well, lo and behold, my mom signed me up the next year and I fell in love with it after the first cramp I felt in Tendu. And I was like, this is amazing. I don't know what I was missing out on, but I really love this. So it kind of became a hobby, it became something. And then I had like this identity change where I thought I was going to go do baseball, but then I got cut from the team. Womp womp. And like I just had this just realization of, well, what is it? What do I want to do? What is it that I can do and what am I gifted at or what skills am I good at? And just went full force into dance.
Mm.
And I had some like musical theater background, some like theater, like things that are within the arts. My dad was a double bassist. My mom did like screenwriting, things like that. So there are some things that like arts was always in the family and we always were aware of the arts. So, I was privileged enough to be able to do that. And that had like insight into me understanding what is like what are the expectations um for being a ballet dancer. And so like at some point I felt really like called to the industry and like I really wanted to do it and decided to hunker down and just do classical ballet. So I was raised Cicchetti, and then I went afterwards. I decided to go to college for it because I just wasn't ready for the industry at that point. And then I got a bachelor's of fine arts in ballet pedagogy from the University of Oklahoma, and I got some amazing teachers there, like roots back to the Ballet Russe and even to like Houston Ballet, like really amazing
Right.
people connections, and an amazing person, Rebecca Heron, just wonderful people who kind of transformed my training. And so it was after that that I then became a professional dancer and I worked with the Sacramento Ballet and um, did a few seasons with them and I decided, you know what, this is something within the industry, something within me, something's not clicking, something is not working. My dreams, like my aspirations of being a professional dancer, this is not the reality that I thought I was going to experience. And the experience was doing amazing ballets. I got to do balancing work. I got to do amazing things that I never thought I would be able to do, especially in the time span that I was a professional. But there were also these like hidden like limitations that dancers would experience. And I always had this thought process of, I always questioned everything. And I always had an analytical kind of lens in my life. And so I would look at the industry and not being raised in the industry from a, like, 2 years old and on, I was able to kind of have an outside perspective of, hold on a second, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why we do it this way? Why we just jump straight into a ballet class and we do no warm up? I remember doing a warm up before we even did any practice in baseball. So why are we doing this? It doesn't make any sense to me. So it was kind of like that realization throughout being in the university setting, training in high school, and then also becoming a professional ballet dancer. I had that realization that there are some missing components. And, without going into like a major detail, because that's not what this is all about, like this podcast, but um,
We'll do it in the next one.
cool. Sounds good to me. I can go off, man. I talk for eternity. But there was that moment, and continuous moments that led up to this kind of culminative, oh wow, I cannot make transformation happen inside of the industry. I don't have that power. I don't think really anybody has that power per se. But I knew and I realized that even though I was a great performer, I had better skill sets with the analytical lens and as a kind of pedagogue, as a teacher. And I would even I was actually pursuing physical therapy school to be a PT, and did like went down that track, and then COVID hit and kind of rearranged everything again. But so I had that kind of lens, and I would help my fellow dancers if they're experiencing pain. I would assist them, and it would work. And like that's all because I trained myself to take these like alternate pathways to becoming a professional dancer and then making it and then surviving and then getting out of it and realizing that there is a better way. Not that we're dismissing tradition or dismissing what is there within the world, but moreover, recognizing that we need a revamp. We need to look at what is there and we need to add in the research and the knowledge that is here before us that other industries are excelling and advancing far greater in their industry because of it. We need that in our ballet industry and let's be honest, in the dance industry. So yeah, that's something like that was me trying to boil it down, but there were just a lot of moments and a lot of kind of these realizations in my career and friends that encouraged me. My best friend actually encouraged me to start my Instagram, and there was yeah, it's just it all comes down to this, and I'm always still questioning. I'm always still looking into things. I'm always still researching, trying to find the best way. So yeah, I'll put a period there because I think, I can keep going, but
I think this is probably why we are or have been attracted to each other through Instagram because we both are continuously learning, trying to make the ballet and dance in general space better because tradition is important. And whenever I sometimes try and question that tradition or question the way we do things, there's like, I don't know about you, but there's this big like on Instagram where people, especially where people go, no, because this is the way we need to do it. And anyway, so I think we definitely have very similar audiences, people who are wanting to pursue that love of ballet and all its amazing benefits, but in a really holistic and new modern age way. Let's just put it that way.
yeah.
Because
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
everything is supposed to move forward. And when you look at sport, isn't it interesting? I mean, actually didn't know that you come from a sporting background. Because when you look
Yeah.
at sport, my gosh, they don't go, oh, we're going to continue doing it this way because of tradition. They go, no, if this is going to produce better results, let's change it.
Yeah,
So
really though.
yeah, I mean, look, one of the reasons why we are sitting here today is because whilst I was supposed to be taking a very big break from Instagram, I did jump on during the summer break. See, it's winter for you over there, isn't it? And so it's summer for me.
Yeah.
And I quickly jumped on and I saw you talking about and you released your 15 corrections to stop giving and what to say instead. And it was a PDF. And I just instantly messaged you and I just said, hey, Austin, let's make a podcast happen. I would love to talk to you about this. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. And obviously, we're not going to go through all 15, but I wanted to pick out a few because I think sometimes there's a lot of teachers who are teaching the way that they were taught. And I've never done that. I certainly have never done that. I think we need to teach in this new landscape of emotional intelligence. And I think we need to be really aware of the emotional impact of our words. So I'm really excited for this conversation. Actually, before we get into the words, how about you sort of let the listeners and myself know how did this particular PDF come about? When did you start sort of questioning, I mean, probably always the language that we
Yeah.
use in a ballet class, but was there like a pivotal moment that sort of sparked, okay, I got to do something about this?
You know, it's It's kind of funny because I feel like in my life, there's really never like aha moments that spark me to take action. I've always lived by example, by people being an amazing example. And one of the things that always stuck with me is be the change that you want to see in the world. And so
Yes.
I try to do, I try to be that, and I try to choose love over anything else, over discrimination, over criticism, anything like that. But having a heartfelt response, a relational response to people, because that's what's going to have a change of heart. So this ultimately, like this PDF, this guide, if you really is kind of like this. I considered all the things that we generally say to students with good intention, and things that I've heard myself, and I had to personally go and like investigate. What did that teacher
Mm.
mean? What do you mean pull up? I don't quite understand what that correction
That's my
means.
first one we're going to talk about.
Nice, good. Okay, great. Well, great segue. But yeah, it's like I didn't understand what that teacher meant, but I did understand that you can't raise your hand and ask, you know, but that's absurd to do that in a ballet class. Not in my ballet class. I love
Yeah.
that. However, in a traditional ballet class, it is absurd. You don't do that. You just be quiet and you listen. But there's time for change. There's time that students need to be the people that are not in charge, but it is your education. Like if you're a student, this is your education that not only are you paying for, but you're using your time to be there in that classroom. And so take advantage of that time and ask the question. The worst thing that can happen is you like what? They throw you out and you just choose a different studio to go to. Like that's the worst that can happen. Like there's a bunch of studios. I digress. But um ultimately the thing that kind of caused me to make this was realizing that even my own colleagues and people that I have witnessed on Instagram, they're saying these things and they want to say better. They're getting students are getting stuck in translation. Teachers are saying things like pull up, turn out more. Um, your leg needs to be higher, but there's really no next step. There's nothing that's allowing the students, who, by the way, are mostly adolescents and younger, so their brain hasn't really even fully developed yet. There's no way that these students can acquire the knowledge that you gain, that they can gain from you by just a simple cue like that. And so it is our job as teachers to meet our students where they're at and not have them meet us where we are at, because it's almost
Yes.
impossible for them to do that. There's your quote right there. But
Absolutely. Spot on.
it's like that's part of the troubles is that you're not doing it wrong, guys. You're not teaching wrong. You're not doing anything wrong. We just need to find better language. We need to have a better approach to getting our students to get from point A to point B to point Z, you
Mm.
know? And yeah, so I'll kind of, wane off there, but
Yeah.
I saw a need and I wanted to fix that, and so, or fill that need.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of the starting point, meeting you where you're at, if you would, and, saying that. So I think pull up is a great starting point because we all say it. I continue to say it. And even to this day, but I don't just stop there. I say more than. So yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you were saying all of that. I am the first to admit, and I will often say this, that as a young teacher, I did begin teaching the way that I was taught, and I was regurgitating information and saying things that I almost didn't even fully comprehend. And so this is not like a you should do better, blame game. This is just we're all constantly learning, and we shouldn't be regurgitating, and we should always be questioning how we say things, how we do things. And I myself learned from reading your PDF, and I myself learn from everything that I consume and all people. And so I think we all learn off each other, and that's the best way to be like super open minded. So I want to start with pull up. Let's go.
Pull up. Jeez, what are you doing? Yeah, pull up is great. It's such a funny thing that we say, because our intention is that we want our muscles, we want our dancers to use their muscles better, right? We want them to consider um, the core and the importance of starting a movement from the center of our body, right? Like if you agree, like go like subscribe, I don't know what, but like if you agree with that statement, It's true. That's our intention, but it's hard to sometimes formulate those words and to a person who is not quite at our level with the language that we have. It's also hard to formulate those language or that language when we're dealing with like 30 plus students in the classroom and we're running on 1 hour for a ballet class.
Yeah.
So it is easier to say pull up and then hope they get it. And then if they don't, that's their fault. But what they deserve, what students deserve, is for us to say pull up and then continue with a new action or give them something to focus on or use multisensory learning to then kind of go about what does that kind of mean? What does that actually mean for my body personally? What about her body? What does it mean to pull up for her or for them, And so there's that kind of thought process that I want y'all, if you're listening, to kind of go through. So in the document that I made, I do things like for every correction that I give you a reason why to retire it and what to say instead, some notes from me, and then some age tips. They're very general tips because I don't want to overwhelm you. But pull up, for example, the reason why we want to retire it is because it's so vague. What does it mean? Like if I were to tell you straighten out my knee, my elbow, what do you mean, dude? And it's kind of like this weird thing. And in ballet dancers, pull up is kind of inherent. We know we got to grow taller. But what that tends to do, it often produces tension in the students' bodies, and they don't quite understand what it means to have appropriate pressure or good tension in your body in order to exert force against a load. And so it causes them to grip rather than actually find true length.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I can go like into amazing science and stuff like that, but one of the things that I think works really well is if you use imagery, visualization, and then allow the students to kind of join you in that journey. So the one that's actually in the PDF itself is lengthened by stacking your vertebrae, or you can say your spine.
Mm.
Stack each spine on top of each other and then feel your ribs as if they're just like set on top and like they're floating in that space. Because if you get this idea or this general understanding of floating and you give words of airy or whatever it is, it flips something in their brain so they don't think that they need to tense, but
Mm.
it's more of this like as if they're like a buoy on water. And that's really what we're trying to get them to do instead of hunkering down and getting it to the ground. We're trying to get them to feel alignment, to engage the core in a way that is going to produce the work that is intended. But yeah, I'll put a pause there. But
I
that's like an
oh no,
example of,
I'm just happy because I always say I actually rarely use the word pull up, but I often hear other teachers say it. And I know what that means because I've been doing ballet since I was 3, but I can see how a lot of students will get that correction and not know what that means. I love us sitting there and I was like, yes, yes, Georgia. When you said the stacking of the spine,
uh-huh.
that's how I explain to my students. However, I haven't done the floating of the rib cage. I'm into that. I'm going to add that into my bag of tricks.
Yeah, try it out.
Um, let's move on to tuck your pelvis.
Ooh, that's a good one. I love this one because it's like it's so we have good intentions, of course. Oftentimes, I think what students do when we ask them, this is affiliated with turnout. It's also affiliated with arabesque. It's affiliated with students trying to do an action typically like with their legs, or their maybe they want more extension behind us, and or behind them rather. But the reason why we want to retire it is because forcing your pelvis to tilt forward, that tilt towards the anterior or the front is going to disrupt that neutral pelvis or alignment. And as we know, if something is balanced and it's in alignment, and that means that things can operate better. Things can stem in off of that center a lot easier than they can in if they were like on off its axis or the hip is hiked up or something like that. But in this example, tucking your pelvis, um, we can engage our muscles better for movement. So do you want an anatomy little tangent or do you want a you smiled.
Let's go your visual cue, like in
Okay,
a
cool.
yeah.
So I love anatomy. And so the visual cue really is I love having my students touch points on their body. And so that's going to give a tactile cue, which is a sense that's a learning mechanism. It's a learning style. But by allowing them the thought process of like bringing your pelvis to neutral, feel the hip points. If you know anatomy, they're your ASIS, anterior superior iliac spine. Feel those bones, and then I want you to find the crest of your pelvis, and then go to the back where your like tailbone kind of is, but like where you meet where your sacrum, like where the two bones in the back, and those are your PSIS. And then that kind of tactile visualization is actually from Eric Franklin, like the father of imagery and visualization in dance, if you would. And what I like to tell my students, and you can do this too, is we can start like on the ASIS. If you put your fingers on the ASIS, those bony projections on the front of your pelvis, on your hip bones, if you're laying down on a hard floor, sometimes you feel them. Put your hands there, and then if you were to imagine the space between your right hand and your left hand in between your pelvis, and imagine like it's waves of water flowing from one side, if it goes to the other side, hits that side, causes a wave to go to the other side, hits that side, and over again, it actually helps your dancers get this proprioception, this idea of, wait, what is the distance between my right hip and my left hip? And then you can do the same thing with your pubic bone and then your tailbone. You can even go in quarters, quadrants, and you can do your ASIS pubic bone if they're struggling with the ASIS left and right. So
Yeah.
that one comes directly from Eric Franklin. I can't take credit for that, but it's like that's a really awesome visual because it gets them to think less about their body and more about this kind of imagination play of the space in their body that is very abstract for adolescents and younger. And it helps them become aware of their body. So that example works well for older kids. If you try to do anything for like younger kids, it's probably more less of like that visualization and more of tactile and more, do you see the space like what you in the mirror? Can you see the space in between your hands? Okay, let's play with it. Let's if you put your left hand on your pubic bone and your right hand on your sacrum, tilt your pelvis forward. Can you arch your back? What does that look like in the mirror? And then they'll be like, it's funny, I look like a jelly bean. And like weird stuff, like kids
Yeah.
are awesome. And then like they talk and be like, okay, which hand is higher? Oh, my left hand. Oh, you're right. Yeah, way to go, Susie. And like you have that, interaction with them. Not only does it get their buy-in and it gets them to do what you're doing, and like you can make a fun little game out of it, like I don't know, make a little noise if you tuck or if you go the other way. But those visualizations can help with that tuck your pelvis thing. Um, and I'm trying not to go on a tangent, but if the reason why we want to retire that word or that phrase tuck your pelvis is because it causes students to overuse the glutes basically,
Mm.
and then their hamstrings, and there's tension there.
Yeah.
What it tends to also do, ironically, is we then start to grip in the front because we can't sustain the work because we're tucking our pelvis. It's no longer in neutral anymore. So then we have to grip it somewhere. We have to sustain it, find our center, find our, core alignment somewhere. And it causes gripping, excuse me, in the front.
I
So yeah,
love
that was a
the
lot. I apologize, but whew.
Don't apologize. That's what a podcast is for. It's not a Instagram reel. We can go as long as and deep as, as you want. I love that visual between the hip bones, that water. That's really beautiful. Um, we have lots of adults who train in ballet that listen to this podcast, and they will find that a really beautiful visual. One that I use with my students is I get them to imagine their pelvis like a bowl of water.
Yep.
And so to get that beautiful neutral pelvis, we want to make sure that the water's not sloshing out the front or the back or the side. And so it helps them sort of like harness that beautiful feeling. But yeah, water's always a really good visual because, yes, as you said, it stops students from gripping and tensing because you get this nice ocean feeling, ocean
Yeah.
vibes.
Yeah, totally.
I want to go to turn out more. Because especially with adult students, they'll go, "What do you mean turn out?"
Mhm.
Let's go.
So turnout more has good intentions, but that assumes that your students know where turnout comes from.
Mm,
And and so do we really know where it comes from? So I want to like test listeners. Say out loud right now where you think turnout comes from. And, think of a region on your body, think of wherever it is. Whenever I ask students where turnout comes from, they almost always touch their quads, their thighs, or they
Yep.
touch their inner thighs. And I'm like, cool, love that. But those are most likely synergists. Those are most likely sustaining the muscles that actually do turnout. You want to know where it actually is found? And they like, oh my God, what? Where is it? And then I'm like, it's right in your booty. And I grab my booty. And it's like the funniest moment for all of them because they're like, oh my God, he touched his booty. I'm a silly teacher sometimes.
No, I love
But
that.
yeah, so I mean, yeah, and it's funny because like being silly or be having a funny moment, having a comedic moment in the right time, and used sparingly can actually do a lot for someone's memory. We get a lot of lovely, not to get a side tangent here, but when you laugh, when you enjoy a moment, it actually helps you keep that in your brain. So
Absolutely.
yeah, and like that's another talk for another day of like why we step foot into a ballet class and we immediately feel this like oppression sometimes, but that's another day talk. But it's funny because it is true. The turnout muscles are deep underneath your gluteus maximus, and they attach at your thigh bone, which is your femur. It attaches like in the greater trochanter region, and then it attaches in various sites. But for the simplicity's sake, let's just say it's like near the sacrum. And so like those areas from that area to there, it literally is like you're lassoing, and I say this as a visual. You lasso, you grab that greater trochanter, and it's like someone is pulling it. If you're watching on the video, you're getting some great stuff. But you're pulling it over to your sacrum. So there's this idea that like turnout, when we think turnout as ballet dancers, we think of the feet. But that's distally, that's way over there, when in
Mm.
actuality, it's more proximal, it's more closer to your center, which, if you reflect back to us talking about the center, everything stems from the center. So it actually does more by us like realizing where turnout comes from. We can actually do more for your students by taking like 7 minutes max and then doing that little moment with them of like, where is your turnout muscle or where are your turnout muscles? And then showing them because they'll remember that forever and take it with them and then start realizing and start using their muscles more appropriately for movement. Um, but yeah, so what you could say instead is rotate from where your hips attach to your pelvis. Maybe show me your zipper line excuse me, centered. This is where we tend to rotate the pelvis forward to get more turnout, when in actuality it causes less turnout. Um, but really emphasize like hip origination for turnout and then alignment. Because that's where it really should truly come from, is from the hips. And then, yes, there's a little bit of like lax in the knees and a little bit in the ankles, but there shouldn't be a lot of rotation in your knee. And if there is, like, then we can build that stability in the knee so to make sure that that rotation or the mobility in your knee is appropriate and strong. But yeah, I think I landed that plane.
Yeah, no, definitely. The last one I wanted to talk about was something that I personally struggle with, and it's performance cues like smile. I'm going to be the first person, the first teacher to admit that I have caught myself in very recent years standing at the front of the studio and going, "Would you just smile?"
Yeah.
So let's go. What should I
Yeah.
need to do? What do I need to do instead?
I love that you brought this one up because I kept going back and forth on this one. And I was like, is this viable? Is this a good one to put into the PDF? Is this kind of a throwaway one? Like, I don't really know what, if people are going to resonate with this one, but I
I
decided, you know
do.
what? I think this talks to people at a different level than the previous ones do, because the previous ones are very anatomical. They're very like, things
Mm.
that we typically say. And this one is actually about the artistry. And so I decided, you know what, let's keep it because I think what we can do instead of saying smile, guys, is validate whatever genuine emotion is present for that piece. And if you're not doing a narrative, you can still validate some type of emotion or some type of experience or whatever it is, the intention behind the movement into the face. Because if you're a person who dances, we primarily watch the body, the feet, the arms, like the whole thing. But if you're a normal person,
Hmm. You're a
uh,
normie.
if you're a normie, yeah, then I used to call them muggles. If you are a normie, then you're looking straight at their face. They like normal people, when we have conversations, we're looking into each other's eyes. That's
I'm
how we
looking at
talk.
people's posture.
Yeah, I know, right? Me too. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I I definitely do the same. So, but normal people do that. And so when they go to the ballet or they go to a dance, they're not looking at the feet per se. Sometimes they'll look at like the whole picture, but primarily they're looking to find connection. And they're looking at you, at your eyes, at your facial expressions, and determining what is it that they are portraying and how do I resonate with that. So by us saying, just smile, guys, come on. Like, why are you, show me an expression, it's invalidating what could be portrayed either through character display or through a thematic display. Yeah,
Mm.
to put it simply. So instead, what we could say is bring intention to your face.
Yeah.
What are we trying to portray? What story are you telling here? And it's often a hard thing because it's super abstract, especially for adolescents and younger. It's this kind of this idea of, well, what am I portraying? And there could be a journey there for your students. And artistry has to start somewhere, It starts you typically with epaulement and the way in which you're using your head within movement and your port-de-bras. However, there then has to be this kind of like backstory, this putting yourself into your art and not becoming that character, because I think that may be like biased and from like an artist standpoint, but trying to determine, okay, if I am doing this step, what does that mean for the audience? What are they receiving as this image? And it's kind of a cool thing to do, and if it's simple and they're just, they're supposed to smile, like you're doing a Rocket routine, need to smile, you know, but if there's more to it and you want to try and like give the audience something to think about at the end of the day, or you're portraying a story like Giselle, you need more than smile. You need distraught. You need complete psychosis. Like that's something that's different, that like, right? Something that like individuals who are young that have not experienced any of that yet, you have to find ways to find the language to offer up those feelings. If I may, there was this amazing opportunity where I was in middle school and I was cast as Harold Hill in The Music Man, and which is an old musical. If you don't know it, it's good. It's not like, it's not a banger, but it's great. There's great songs in there. And I had a hard time as an eighth grader depicting love, being in love, and showing my like, I adore this person. I want to be with this person. The love that you feel like I feel for my wife. I had a hard time depicting that because I never actually felt it before.
Yeah.
So my teacher, he was awesome. I love him. Greg Stokes, shout out. He was like, you know what? Go home, watch the Matthew Broderick version, and watch how he looks at the actress. Watch how he looks while she is singing, while she is doing this movement, while she's stepping. Watch his expression. And I was like, I'm getting chills now because I'm like, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And it transformed how I performed. And it's
That's such a great idea.
right. It's such a good idea. And like,
Because I
go
was
ahead.
thinking, sorry, I was thinking when we were talking about this, it is really difficult, even if you are choosing relatively very appropriate song choices for adolescents, for example, but they haven't gone through those emotions before many a time.
Yeah,
And so how are you supposed to portray what you haven't felt before? But I've never thought to,
true.
well, actually, no, I have done that. We were doing a center stage piece once, and I said, you have to go watch center stage. You need to understand what this final dance is all about.
Yeah,
And mind you, a lot of the students, I was so annoyed at them, didn't go watch it. I'm like, you're dance students, go watch center stage. This is a rite of passage. But
yeah.
that was so smart of your teacher to say
Hmm.
to do that and be very specific about it, like very specific about what part and what actor and what you're really watching.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah, he's a great teacher. And he's retired now, but that was like the things that were very amazing about his advice to me from teacher to student was that he was specific, he was actionable, and he followed through.
Mm.
And those three things are like, if you're taking anything away from this podcast, it's those three things. The more specific you can be, focusing on one thing at a time, the more that they're going to get it. Your students are going to get it. Actionable, it means that they need to actually commit to doing the thing, and you can't just give them some vague response or a vague cue because it's not going to actually get them to move and to take action for it, you know. And then, follow through is the most important part because if you don't follow through, they're going to assume that you don't care or you don't care, and it's like, okay, we have to move to the next thing, which
Yeah,
you do care, guys. I know you do. Sometimes you're just busy. But
definitely.
yeah, it's awesome because, I did Los Angeles and it did a little like excerpt from it. And in ballet, in like that ballet, I didn't do any pirouettes. I didn't do anything that was like technique. It was all acting. And it was me and then it was this other fella who did it. And I just remember when I was doing it, and I was working like with John Clifford and Kareem Binda Cunningham on the piece itself, and they would give me constant like feedback of like the specific things that I need to be thinking about while this person, she's sleepwalking. That's what it means. She's sleepwalking, holding a candle, and I'm just enamored by like this beauty, this amazing thing. That's like, what is this? And it was such a cool ballet just because there was no technique really. It was all about owning the space, being present, and finding power in doing less, you know? And
Mm.
so that was like out of all the ballets I've done, I really love that one because it was such a fun, just yeah, I'm in the moment and I'm doing the actions for myself. But yeah, weird tangent, but it's all related because like,
Yeah.
never once did I actually smile in that piece. I may have like smirked because there's a little part of it where like I lift her hand and it falls because she's asleep. And like I may have like smirked in that moment because like, oh, I can have fun. I can twirl her around. Yeah.
Love. There's a famous Sylvie Guillem interview where she talks about, she's sort of asked, what's the most powerful or difficult thing you can do on stage? And she's like, just standing there.
Yep.
Just standing there and holding space and being able to communicate literally with your eyeballs. I'm totally butchering, these aren't the exact words, but the idea is that one of the hardest things to do is to just stand there and be present and tell a story without really even moving. And so, yeah, that's beautiful. I need to ask you my famous question for the pod. What keeps you balanced, Austin?
What keeps me balanced? That's a great question, and I think it's very timely because one of the things that I've just recently kind of taken a hold of in my life is recognizing what my needs are as a neurodivergent person. I have ADHD, and I just operate differently than the standard person does, and I didn't take that into consideration. Even when I found out I had ADHD, I was like, ah, that makes sense, but I never actually committed to looking at life differently. And so being balanced for me is moreover recognizing where energy comes from for me and how I can expend my energy in ways that will fulfill me. Because I think as a person with ADHD, I struggle with the new and the invigorating and it's something that catches my attention. I'm immediately there, but finding a moment to step back and be reflective and to think, okay, well, that is cool, and I would love to do that, but what's going to provide the energy in return? What is my like ROI, my
Mm,
return on investment? And that's what kind of keeps me balanced and recognizing that it's not the instant gratification that sometimes I feel people with ADHD fall into. It's actually the slow and the controlled and the moments that I'm able to sit with my daughter and the moments I'm able to sit with my wife and like just quality time that actually gives me energy. And it's such a strange thing to consider for us busy people, and especially people who are neurodivergent. But really, truly, I think that's a great kind of like summary of what keeps me balanced. Um, and I enjoy it. I'm very privileged and blessed and lucky to have both of them in my life. And soon, depending on when you hear this, soon a baby boy that will be here. So it's very
oh,
exciting. and he is growing and stuff like that.
Congratulations.
Oh, I didn't know you didn't know.
I
Yeah,
didn't
thank
know.
you.
I was like, are you announcing a pregnancy on my pod?
That'd be so awesome.
I love that. So, how soon?
Like February 8th.
Oh, soon. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I didn't know. See, I have been doing a good job of staying off socials.
you have. You have, yeah. I posted a, not, tangent, but I posted a reel. You should go see it. It's so cute.
Okay.
It was all my wife's idea to give her credit. But she and I met. She was my Clara and I was her Nutcracker in high school. And so
So
I showed a
cute.
little clip of like us dancing and then she ended up doing the minuet party scene thing again with me this year. And so it jumps us to us doing that with our daughter and she's pregnant. And so that's actually how I announced it.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah,
That's
it's very
so
sweet.
that's so beautiful. Well, this conversation has just been great, Austin. It's been so nice too because we've been communicating via social media, which, it's not all doom and gloom on socials. We meet cool people in that
Yeah,
space.
we do.
We find these connections, which is great. But the conversation has really just been super useful, super helpful. I found your PDF really insightful. For those that would like a copy, how can they get one?
Oh, you can definitely just reach out to me. You can DM me the word 15 and I'll like my automations take over and it'll give you the free PDF and all that stuff. Straight honesty, I don't have the energy to type it all to you guys. But if you ever have a question, you are more than welcome to DM me. And when I find time, when I have the energy to do so, I will respond back. And it is me. And I love having conversations with you. I even love doing voice memos and like sending it to you guys. I've done that like so many times this week to people. It's a real joy for me to be able to help. And I get a lot of energy out of that. So don't hesitate, y'all. Like actually DM me. I will respond. It'll be a good time.
I love that. Well, I love your content. Please keep it up. I find it incredibly useful as a teacher. And I want to ask any teachers or students out there that enjoyed this episode, that found it useful, the best thing you can do, because as you know, this podcast, everyone, is a labor of love. Please share it. Please tell a friend. Send either Austin or I a DM and just say, really enjoyed it. That's always such a thrill for me. So,
Mhm.
yeah, thank you so much, Austin, for giving up your time and welcome officially to the Balanced Ballerinas podcast community.
I feel so honored. I feel like I made it. I'm gonna call my
Oh,
mom. I
I
made it,
love
mom.
it. She'll be like, what do you mean? But balanced ballerinas, what?
I know, right?
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much, Austin.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.